Hey guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be making a Drumcode style techno track from start to finish. I'm going to be going all the way from a blank slate, like I've got right here, to a finished master track. So if you want to hear the finished master track, you can skip to the timestamp at the top of the description now. I'll give you a moment to do that. And yeah, so before I start, I'm going to have the project file and the samples and the MIDI and presets and all that kind of stuff that I come up with in this video available in the description, so make sure to check that out. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because everything will be available there. Yeah, let's get started. So I'm gonna take the BPM down a little bit here. Let's do 132. And let's get a kick going first. I have some samples prepared here. I have this kick. There we go. And I'm gonna put it in here. So let's put in some quarter notes on this. Nice. And then from here, what we can do is I'm going to add a little bit of a pitch envelope to it just to make it hit a little bit harder. You can hear the difference there. If I turn it off. There we go. We get that nice impact. And I think I'm going to make a reverb kick here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an audio effect rack. We're going to make two chains. We're going to create chain. There we go. We're going to name one of these dry and one of these rumble. And on the rumble chain, we'll solo it. I'm going to put a reverb. Maybe about like that. And then I'm going to put an overdrive on here. And we're going to put that after the reverb. And you'll notice something happening here. So you can hear there's the reverb. It doesn't really sound very like techno kick-y. But when we add this reverb, or this overdrive, you can hear it still doesn't sound very techno kick-y. However, we're getting that nice, really rumbly low end. So I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Cool. And then the last thing that we're going to do here is we're going to get an auto filter. And we're also going to get a utility. And I'm going to use the utility and we're going to convert it to mono. And then with the auto filter, what we're going to do is we're going to just filter it down. And now, if I unsolo this, there we go. We've got a pretty nice, like, rumbly kick. And the bass may sound a little wonky. I'm not sure. I'm working on headphones. But from what I hear, it sounds pretty solid. Anyway, from here, I'm going to add a little bit to it. I'm going to give it a drum bus. You can hear that makes it hit, like, even harder. And then I'm actually going to add a small amount of a limiter as well. Just to really tie it all together at the end of the chain there. So you can hear, this is really like a lot more powerful now. Like it went from this, which was pretty hard hitting, to this. So yeah, that's pretty good. And this is something too, like with this kind of techno, it can be hard to get it to really hit like as hard as a lot of those tracks that you hear coming out to you. And what I like to do to kind of make this a little bit easier on myself is just, you see, like as I'm going along here, I'm doing it. Like I'm not just making the kick and saying, okay, later we're going to mix it, later we're going to add all this stuff to it. I'm trying to get it to sound like how I want it to sound right from the get-go. And this is also good because then, like, while you're working on the track, you know, you're working with what you're going to be ultimately hearing. Like, if I just made this super dry sounding, like, let's say we just did this, and we didn't add the pitch envelope. Like, we just stopped there and said, okay, that's good enough. Then what would happen is I would make the whole track around this, and it would be kind of confusing because I wouldn't really be hearing it in the same way that it's going to ultimately be, which would be this. So yeah, that's just kind of why I like to get that kind of stuff set up from the start. So from here, we're going to add a little bit of noise, actually. I have this like vinyl background noise kind of thing. Let's make this 8 bars while we're at it. And yeah, we're just going to put that in the background. I like that for this kind of techno. I think it adds a lot of nice sort of like quote unquote musical context. Like it kind of makes it sound more like textured and interesting. And so from here, I think I'm also going to add in some hi-hats. Like let's get this one and we will do some 16th notes. That's good. And I will turn that down a little bit and copy it over. Cool, that's a good start. And then I'll also add this hi-hat on the upbeats. And something you'll notice too is like the timbre of these two hi-hats. I think this is very important. So you can hear the one playing 16th notes in a moment when I when I copy that over. Okay. You can hear the one playing 16 notes is pretty sharp sounding, but it's not as sharp as the one playing on the upbeat. You can hear this one actually sounds like very like, almost like cutting. And that's kind of what you want. This is another problem I find, like equal to how you have to make, or kind of equal to how you have to make your kick hit really hard. And sometimes that can be easy to miss. It can also be kind of easy to miss like how hard your hi-hats need to be. Like, a lot of times when I hear people send me tracks and when I just hear kind of like beginner tracks in general, that's like one of the things that I hear is that I think that, you know, your hi-hats need to be really sharp sounding for this style. You don't want like little kind of smaller hi-hats. You want something kind of sharp and textured like this. So that's another thing. And really what that comes down to is just like sample selection and just knowing like how to choose the right sounds. And then obviously like a bit with processing as well. So from here what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of delay and I'm going to put it on this hi-hat. That's good. You can hear that adds kind of some nice like ear candy to the beat because we have like those little hi-hats delaying. And you can hear they're being filtered. And it's giving it more stereo with the ping pong effect as well. Cool, and then what I'll also do is I'm going to put these in a group. And on this group we will put a drum bus. And then an EQ8, kind of cutting at the low end. And we'll boost the highs as well, because you see what's kind of happening here? Is there's like this part where it cuts out. That high end is kind of where a lot of the sharpness sits. So I'll just boost that a little bit. You know, nothing more than like 3 or 4 dB, but just something extra to give it a little bit more kind of like crunch there. But okay, so now you can hear kind of similar to like with the kick. The processing really helps with these. So here's without any of this. And then with it. So you can hear that drum bus and like that high end boost and cutting at the low end really helps to like bring these. I feel like this is the thing that kind of like brings these samples into the track. Like a lot of the questions I get are like, how do you take samples from a sample pack or maybe individual samples you record yourself or whatever it may be and kind of like put them into your track and make them all sort of fit together. And this is a really good way to do that. Like you can hear when I added that drum bus, it really kind of like takes it, I feel like, from the sample pack into the song. Alright, so that's sounding pretty good. So from here, I think that I'm actually going to add my first melodic element, or melodic, quote unquote. Basically, I have this little 303 pattern. I'll show it to you really quick. Let me grab an operator and put it on here, and I think I have to put this up 2 octaves. Alright, so I have this little 303 pattern here. You can hear it. I'm pretty sure it's in B minor. Yeah, we're in B minor. And I think I'm going to take this and use it to kind of build off of for this track. And so for writing these 303 patterns, I will talk about it a little bit. What I like to do is I would usually start with something like this. Like, let's say we're in B minor, so we'll put that in on B. What I will do is I will usually just take a bunch of notes here and just copy them over like 16th notes. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of shorten them a little bit like this. And then you get that. And so from there what you can do is you can start just kind of moving the notes around and doing like different things. Like for example, here we could do or something like that. And it's really not that difficult. Like, I'm kind of just playing around with the notes that are in the chord. Like, for example, here, okay, so we're in B minor, so B is our root note, and then D will be our minor third. So here, I'm just going up to D, and then C sharp. I guess it's 1 note down from the minor third, but, not that much more difficult. And then, like, we could do something here, like, maybe we'll play with the fifths. Let's use this note and this one for that. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we'll move this one up 1. Like something like this. maybe more of an ARP and less of a 303 kind of pattern, where you can see, and then you can take stuff and do it kind of like more like a 303 from there. Like we can add the little slide. You know, stuff like that. You can see I just wrote that really quickly here. It's not that difficult. It's just kind of a matter of playing around the notes in your chord. And like I said, I think that it really helps if you just start with the long pattern of 16th notes and then just kind of try and move those. Because if you don't do that, what you're doing is you're basically just sitting there and like clicking in notes and trying to kind of make it work from that. And I don't know. For me, that just isn't as easy. Like I feel like, you see, I don't know, it almost like blocks my brain a little bit. I feel like by just putting in the 16th notes and having something so rigid like that you're stuck to, that you're kind of working with, you get more like, yeah, it kind of opens up more possibilities. Anyway, I'm going to take this and kind of make it sound like a 303. I'm going to use operator for this. I do like using operator for these kind of sounds. What we're going to do is we're going to put this on this FM algorithm. So these are basically just different combinations of FM with these oscillators here. And this one just basically has them all playing side by side with no FM. So I'm going to do that. And we're going to also grab a square wave. I've been finding lately that if you add a square wave like that and kind of blend it like that, where you still mostly are hearing the saw wave, it just kind of makes it sound like a really fat saw wave. So we'll take the filter. And this is where some of these volume envelopes may come in handy as well. Okay, that's good. I usually like to not have the envelope up too high on a 303, and the reason for this is because what's happening with an envelope is basically it's starting the filter frequency at a high point and dropping it down. That's what the pluck that you hear is. And so if you have too much envelope, you can hear it starting from like a much higher point on the filter sweep. And because we're going to want to automate this frequency because it's a 303, that's kind of what you do, I like to have it kind of tighter and a little bit more controlled. Okay, so that's sounding pretty good. So from here, we can add a few effects. I'm going to get an EQ8 and just cut out the low end because you can hear, and you'll see it on here as well. There's all that low end, and the kick is really where all that kind of bass is happening with this track. So yeah, we'll just turn that down a little bit. And then maybe the next thing that I'm hearing is I'll get a little bit of echo. You can hear this really helps too. Kind of make it more like rhythmic and make the pattern a little bit more interesting, because this on its own is pretty cool. But it helps to have like that little, like those little delays going with it. It provides like some extra kind of ear candy. Cool, and so from here I want to try something. I think I'm actually going to use drum bus. I like how it works. You can hear it really makes things sound fatter. And it's good for like a song like this that really is kind of percussive if you think about it. Cool, and as I go through here, I'm like checking to make sure that it still works with the filter open as well. Cool, so from here we can maybe get like either a bit of overdrive. Nah, let's not do the overdrive just yet. I'm gonna get a bit of saturation. Yeah, that works. Okay, so this is sounding like a pretty solid little 303. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually sidechain this to the kick. And I'm going to do this in a bit of a particular way. What we're going to do is we're going to get a compressor, and we're going to turn on the sidechain, then we're going to go up to the kick, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select pre-effects here. And so what would happen if I would sidechain this to this post-effect signal, basically just the kick that you're hearing, the kick with the effects, is you can hear it's not really giving you much of like a pump because you're just kind of, it's just getting ducked out of the way the whole time because that reverb is ducking it out of the way. But if you switch this to pre-effects, what happens is it's just sidechaining it to this basically. I mean, obviously without all of these. And so what you get is you're just sidechaining it to the punch basically. You're not sidechaining it to all the reverb, which means there you go. It's not ducking the entire sound out of the way. Okay, it's a pretty solid little start. Now I kind of have more of an idea of where I want to go sort of musically here. Excellent. So from here what we're going to do is I'm thinking I kind of want to add like a bit of a percussive kind of like FM stab actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get operator, and I have an idea for a pattern here. I'm going to do like something kind of intense. I like having something like this. You'll see what I'm talking about when I make it. But something just kind of like both rhythmic and melodic. Like this is going to be playing a note. It's going to sound like a synth. It's not going to sound like a drum, but it is going to be very rhythmic. And what it's going to do is it's going to add to the overall groove of our track, and it's going to make the groove a little bit more interesting as well. Because if you're only making your groove from like kind of obvious drum sounds like this stuff, I mean, it's too obvious. Like I said, like it can just be a little bit kind of simple. But when you have it as like a combination of the percussion and the synths and just everything kind of, you know, working together to one goal, you get a little bit more of a better quality sound, I feel like. So what we're going to do is this just going to be like an FM sine wave stab. Almost kind of like a donk, if you're familiar with that type of sound. That's cool. And then I'm going to add a pitch envelope. Make it more clicky. Yeah, like that. And we can keep tweaking the sound as well. Maybe a filter envelope on there. Okay, that's pretty cool. You kind of see what I'm getting at now. Cool, so let's keep working with this. Gonna give it a little bit of release on all of these oscillators and on the filter. And I'm really just experimenting with this sound. Like, that's the other thing. Like, this is me just trying to show you, like, my creative process when I'm doing sound design. Like, I'm not really going for a specific sound that I hear in my head. I have the sound in my head, like, kind of just to do, like, an FM stab, like I was saying. Kind of the same how I did with the 303. Where I was like, okay, I want a 303 now. You know, I want, like, a certain type of sound here, but I'm just trying to take my time and really experiment with it, because what happens is, like, sound design isn't really, like, sound designing. Like, I've made a video about this in the past, actually, but I feel like the term sound design is almost kind of, like, misleading, because it's like, if you're designing something, it's implied that you kind of already know, like, what it's going to look like or sound like in this case. But I don't really know what I want this to sound like. All I know is that I just want, like, a cool FM stab. And so, I'm more trying to, like, find the sound. And then what I'm using here is my skills and my understanding of, like, how FM synthesis works and how synthesis in general works to find the sound, as opposed to, like, using those skills specifically to just make a sound that I hear in my head and just, I just guess, move forward. I don't know. I kind of couldn't imagine doing it that way. pretty solid. I just want to get a little bit more like... Yeah, there we go. I just want to get a little bit more high end in there. So let's get an echo on there. And we'll do eighth notes. I'm going to copy the sidechain from the 3 of 3. And then let's also get an EQ8 on there and cut out some low end, because you may... Yeah, see, there's some in the low end with the sound, and obviously, we don't want it to get in the way of the kick. I also like to check these kinds of things with all my other melodic stuff and just see how it sounds, which sounds pretty solid. Cool, so this is pretty thin sounding right now. I'm going to put a drum bus on it. I use that to kind of beef it up a bit. You can also chill out with the pitch envelope. But you can hear that really helps to bring it out in the mix. Maybe turn it down a little bit. Okay, so from here, I think I'm just going to add a little bit more saturation. I like to do it sometimes at the end of, like, if I have an echo or something like that. Just because you can hear, now it's not only affecting the sound, like the drum buses, but it's also affecting the echoes. And you kind of get a cool sound through that. But alright, so... So I think we need some more sort of like detail work here. So what I want to do right now is I want to get a few more claps actually. I have some claps prepared here. I've got this one and this one. And what I want to try and do here is I want to add like some almost sort of like punctuation. What we're going to do is I've taken this first one in and we're going to put a delay on it. Let's use a ping pong delay. And I'm going to do, actually let's use, instead of ping pong delay, let's use a filter delay, so we can do like a mono delay with the filter on it. But basically, I'm just going to do 16th notes. And you probably recognize this from like a ton of tracks in the style. But basically what we're going to do. Trying to get the 3 or 3 right there. But what we're doing, as you can hear, we're just adding these little kind of like I said, like some punctuation, you know? Like it's just these little delay claps that come in and they just add a lot to the groove, I feel like. And then I'm also going to take this one and we'll maybe do like this with this one. Yeah, there we go. And then with this one, we'll get a ping pong delay. Just because I like to do it like different. Like, I don't want to just use one delay because if you do that, I mean, it's just going to get kind of boring. Like, not only is it going to sound similar with every sound, but like, also, I mean, I just get tired of looking at the same interface over and over. Like, I like to learn a lot of new things. But yeah, I also like using the different delays just because it'll help to kind of improve the contrast between these two. Like, for example, the delay on this one is completely mono, but then the delay on this one is not mono. Alright, that sounds pretty solid. Awesome. So from here, I'm going to turn down the filter on the 3. It'd be hard to get the perfect 3 or 3 sound. But that'll come together when we start arranging. Anyway, from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to group all these kind of percussion things together, and we're going to put some effects on the group. I'm going to get some saturation. And again, this is like when I was putting the saturation on the hi-hats, it's like, it just brings it to life so much more. I'm gonna mute the 303 for now, because I think what I'm gonna do when I go to arrange it is I'm gonna do some stuff with that, where it'll kind of fit in better with this. Alright, cool. And the key with the claps also, like when you do them like this, is to just not go too crazy. Like, usually to let them breathe a little bit. And not have them be too loud. Cool, and then I'm also going to put a small amount of compression on this group here. Just really compressing those peaks. Here's without it. And then with it. Actually, I'm going to turn that ratio down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So you can hear, it's just kind of beefing everything up a little bit. It's helping to tie this all together. Nice. So, going with the kind of like extra, like kind of ear candy stuff, I'm going to add a few little kind of like end of bar things. So the first thing I want to have here is a little stab. And so what I mean by end of bar things is like things that just happen at the end of like every, say, 4 bars. Like we'll have this little chord stab come in here at this one spot, for example. Something like that. And then I have an idea to maybe do like a lead for this other one. Let's get operator for this then. And let's see, we're in B minor. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll go back to the root there. Yeah, there we go. That's a nice little lead there. So all that's doing is it's just doing the 5th, F sharp, and then one note up from that, which I guess would be like the 8th or something, and then just the root note B. But it's a nice little like melodic thing. So now we have, you know, just to make sure, again, like ear candy elements. Like we've got. Now we gotta do some stuff with these sounds, of course. I think I'm going to. Yeah, there we go. Sometimes with these little chord stabs, it's important to like listen to the whole track while you're making it. Because what can happen is a lot of times you'll make like a little stab like this that sounds good on its own, but then when you play it in the track, you just can't really tell what's going on. Alright, that's good. Now what I'm going to do with this delay, I have this echo on here just doing dotted 8th notes. Maybe I just want regular 8th notes. Now, let's do the dotted 8th notes. But what I'm going to do underneath that is I'm going to get a ping pong delay? Let's try ping pong delay. And with that, I'm going to do 16th notes. And so we'll have kind of like the interplay of these two delays here. It's like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. There we go. We get kind of like a something nicer, and it's also good because we have a lot of very fast delays in here, like between the claps and the delay on this, and even like on the 303 a little bit. So it's a nice contrast to have something like this that has like a longer and kind of more spaced out delay like that. So what we'll also do is we'll take this and work with it. I think I'm just going to do a saw wave for this one. Or let's do a square, and I'll put a filter on it. Yeah, that's cool. And then let's give it a little envelope with like some attack. That's great. Cool, so from there, I'll add some delay. Let's do ping pong delay on this one. Yeah, let's do that in that octave. Now we'll have this. Yeah, there we go. I like kind of playing around with this, and you'll see too like how I'm doing it is I'm not just like doing things and then kind of like leaving them, or like doing things while just listening to it on its own. I'm kind of like constantly changing things, but I'm also listening to the whole track while I'm changing things. Like I was saying with like making the stabs, like you don't want to just go in and make the sound and try to insert it into the track. The people who are listening to this track, like whoever hears your song, are only going to ever hear these things in the track. So there's no sense in making something sound really, really good on its own and then have it be not that good in the track. So I'd rather just kind of work with it while hearing everything. Alright, these are pretty solid. Let's add this little bit of saturation on the stab. There we go, that makes that a little bit fatter. And we'll also put an EQ8 on there. Just to make sure it's not hitting in the low end. And we'll also put that same one on the lead. And honestly, the lead sounds pretty good to me. I don't feel like it needs a whole lot. Usually it sounds in the high end like that. Don't tend to need as much. I'm going to give this a little bit of chorus. Yeah, that's good. Maybe even some reverb as well. Yeah, there we go. Cool, this is sounding pretty good. The next thing that I think I'm going to add are actually some more hi-hats. Something that I've noticed with a lot of techno, and this will probably come more when it gets to like actually arranging this track, is that a lot of times they will use like a 909 ride and a 909 hi-hat to kind of increase the intensity. So I'll show you what I mean here. I have a 909 ride and a 909 hi-hat, and what we're going to do is we're going to put one of these in here, and it doesn't matter which one. I'm going to just put this on the upbeats. So we're using the hi-hat first. I'll turn up the release on that, and then I'm going to duplicate that and then put on that duplicate track just the ride, and now we'll have these two playing at the same time. And so when you layer these together, it's a bit messy right now because I've got to clean them up, but you get this like very powerful and bright kind of like ride type of sound. And so when you put this in here, you can hear it's kind of nice. Like maybe you have like this part of your track where it's just these hi-hats, and then when you want it to get more intense, like, then we've got the 303. And the 909 stuff. So you can see, like, it's kind of just something nice to have in there. And, like, to be able to work with. So that's what I'm going to do. Or that's why I'm having this in here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start processing these a little bit. We'll go to the ride. It's not going to take too much, but with the ride you can hear and see. Then we just need to like kind of get rid of all that low end. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go through and look for these sort of like whistly frequencies. You can't really hear it now probably. I can because I know what I'm looking for. And those of you who know what this process is probably can hear it. But basically we're going to go through and find all these little resonant points. If you look at this waveform or this like thing here, you can see like this, all these little peaks here are basically just like these weird like sort of whistly frequencies like this that exist in the 909 ride for whatever reason. Like that. And we're just going to go in and cut those out. And the key here is to not do like you could go through and find these all day in a 909 ride. Yeah, see there's another one. The key is to not do too many, because if you do too many, it just kind of becomes white noise, and like these little like discrepancies and kind of like issues with it are kind of what makes this sound what it is, you know? So you don't want to go too crazy. And we can maybe even like still bring those through a little bit more. But yeah, just something a little bit like that. So here's before the EQ. Very messy. And then there's with it. Cool, and then we'll also do kind of a similar thing on the 909 hi-hat, because those tend to have a similar... Oops. Alright, let's get like one or two more of these here. And this little headphone icon that I'm turning on is pretty useful as well. Basically, when you click this on EQ8, what happens is, whichever point you're clicking, you just hear the stuff that's happening, like, on that frequency range. So it's really useful for these, because you can just find the little whistly sounds. And there you go. Pretty simple. So here's without the EQ, and then with it. Cool, so from here we can maybe do a little bit on the group. I'm still going to put one more EQ8 on there and cut out the low end. But you can hear what happens is also, like, it's the layering here too. Like, this is why I have both of these, because sometimes I think people just grab, like, the ride. You can hear the ride on its own has that really nice, like, sharp, kind of sparkly high end. But what it doesn't have is, like, kind of, I don't even want to say, like, a punch, but, like, I guess really, like, some strong mid-range. So that's where this comes in. When we add that, we get that sharper kind of like attack in the mid-range as well. That's sounding pretty good though. Let's add a little bit of reverb to it. And maybe a slight amount of drum bus after that. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So I think another thing that I want to do here is I want to add a pad of some sort, and I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to go with the arrangement, but I do have a pretty good idea. So what I'm going to do is, and I know how this is going to kind of work into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get analog here. I'll do some detuning. And maybe we'll turn the filter down a bit, turn off that envelope, give it some resonance. Matter of fact, let me put in, this is a pattern that I have in mind. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this B minor chord. Again, that's the key that we're in, and we'll put that up an octave. Or actually, let's put that down because... Alright, yeah, there we go. So we'll put that there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to double up the fifth, the root note, and the fifth. So we'll put that over there, and then put it down an octave. And then what I'm going to do is after 2 bars, the fifth is going to go up one. So it'll be kind of like this. Nice. We have like some kind of dark cinematic vibes. And I know this is a lot all at once, but keep in mind, we're just trying to get all the elements here. It's kind of like, I think I've talked about this in a few of these other videos. Like, it's like when you're a painter, like you have like your palette of paints, right? Like you don't make the paints while or you don't come up with like what colors you want to use and like kind of what color mixes and blends you want to use while you're painting the picture. You come up with those and then you paint the picture. That's kind of what we're doing here, is I'm getting all my colors together, all my characters, flavors, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going to sort of arrange them around the painting, as opposed to just sort of like coming up with it, trying to put together the colors while you're making the painting, if that makes any sense. So, cool, we can turn off the sidechain while we're just listening. Alright, well this works quite effectively. So let's get this EQ8 here, cut out a little bit of low end. I don't want to do too much, but what I'm thinking is that this is going to play during the break mostly. So there won't be like the heavy kick playing during then to get in the way of that lawn. So let's add a bit of vibrato. Yeah, that's cool. We'll give it some LFO as well on the filter frequency. Just a little bit. Just so it's kind of like moving. Like that. Nice. So from here, I'm going to maybe add a little bit of reverb. You can hear that makes it sound more like a kind of like string type of sound. Alright, so from here, let me check out what we're doing with the mix. So, it sounds pretty solid to me for the most part, mix-wise. I am going to take this though, and you can see what's happening. If you look at this little meter over here, this basically tells you what the maximum volume your track is hitting at. And you can see right now, it's hitting between like -3 and -4 or so. So what I'm going to do, I usually like to have it between like -5 and -6 while I'm working on my track. And the reason for this is just because, like, at the end, that's about where you're going to want it to be before you master everything. And yeah, I just find it, again, easier to sort of do everything as I'm going than to try and do it all at the end when everything is kind of already done. You can see now that all I did was I just selected all of these and just moved the volumes down a little bit. You can see now it's hitting pretty much where we want it. Right between -5 and -6. So from here, I think I'm going to start doing some arrangement stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag all of this out just to over here for now, just so we have it. And I know for a fact that I want to start with the kick and definitely this background noise as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm also going to get the little 16th note hi-hats. I believe it's this one? Yeah, that one. So we get kind of like I'm doing this strategically here. Like, this is the intro, so we want the intro to kind of like build into the energy of the track and not start out too slow because you want it to be able to be mixed in from another song. But at the same time, you know, we don't want to give it all away here. So that's kind of what we're doing. Like, again, I'm doing this all strategically. Like, we have the kick. That's really driving it. Obviously, the noise is just to add some, like, kind of background texture. And then these hi-hats you can hear are adding a lot of energy. So, like, if you were mixing out of another track into this one, you wouldn't lose the energy. What can happen a lot of times when you make a track and you make, like, a really slow intro or you just make it kind of, I don't know, not have a lot of energy when it's right coming in, it can be really hard to mix into for DJs because the whole thing of DJing is energy, like, kind of getting the crowd from one point to another. And you have to do that as smoothly as possible. So if you have one track where it's like full force and then you just go straight into like just basically a kick, it's not going to be enough energy. So yeah, having that hi-hat in there, you can hear makes it a little bit more intense. And I think I'm also going to grab the little, this thing. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put a low pass filter on that at the end of the chain. I'm going to have it just playing there like really faint. Like you can just barely hear that. I'm also listening to it with the kick to make sure like around 100 hertz it's not clashing. But alright, cool. So we'll have this filter down in the intro here. And maybe it can be coming up like a little bit. I do, even if you have like a sound like this where you're trying to have it be kind of filtered down in this part, I do like to have the filter move at least a little bit because I feel like it gives the track more life and makes it more interesting to listen to because it's less predictable. Like even that little tiny bit is helping. Cool, so we'll copy this over again. And then in this part, I think I'm going to get this open hi-hat. Or I guess this one that plays on the upbeats is what I'm in. And we should also grab this clap as well. Let's just use this one in this part. like that. Cool. So the next thing that I want to try and do from here is I'm going to get the 303 actually, and I want to try something with it. What I want to do is I want to basically just have it be playing like the first few notes in the pattern and just kind of like teasing what's going to come. Yeah, that's cool. And we can also kind of chill out with this distortion a little bit. I'm kind of like working with this one as I go. I'm trying to get it to be like as fat as I ultimately want it to be. But you can see it's kind of like an ongoing process too. It's like I made this sound while I was listening to this as a loop. And now that I'm kind of working it into a more finished song, then we gotta like, you know, make some adjustments. And that's fine. That's just how it that's just how it is. That's how production should be. Cool, so in this next part, then we'll have the full 303. And we'll have it kind of filtering up. Maybe I'll have it get to like... There we go. I like to do little things like this, like having a little dip there in the automation. It kind of helps to, you know, make it a bit more interesting and just kind of like bring it to life a bit. And we'll also have a bit of an automation during this part. Excellent. That sounds great. So I'm going to have this go up a little bit here so it's not just staying in that same space. Again, you can see the 303 is not staying in one place the whole time. And that's what we want. Cool. So from here, we can add maybe a few more things. Like I think I'm going to get those 909 rides / hi-hats. And I'm also going to get that first clap. Yeah, that's good. And I think I'm also going to get the little stab things that I made. And what we're going to do is in this part, they're going to just play normally how I want them to. But leading up to that, we're going to have them be a little bit more sparse. So basically what will happen is, like most times, basically, one of these happens every 4 bars. We have this one in the first 4 bars, then this one, and the pattern repeats. In this case, we're going to do it so it happens every 8 bars, just at the start, just to make it kind of, I guess, a little bit different. I just want there to be room for that stab and, like, yeah. That sounds very solid. So from here, what I'm going to do is I need to get into the break because this is a very good intro. But I think we could definitely use like a break at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy over all of these drums. We'll also copy the background noise a bunch of times. I'm going to copy over all the drums into this part. We'll copy the 303 as well. And we can just get everything, even like the little synth stab. And then what I'm gonna do is during this part, these things are gonna be filtering down. And then we'll go into something for the next part, which I'll show you. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put an auto filter on the hi-hats / like percussion. We're just gonna have that filter down. Yeah, there we go. See, like something like that, where it's just kind of like slowly going away. Like it starts with all this energy and all this buildup. And even just by doing that, it's like already chilling out nicely. Okay, cool. So from there, I'm also going to do the same kind of thing on the little synth stab. Cool. And then on the 303, what I'm going to do is we're going to have the filter go down. Cool, and then so this is where this pad comes in, because my idea here is to sort of go into a break here. Let's grab all this stuff and move it over even further. But basically, I want to go into like a break here, and I'm thinking maybe we'll have it go until like there. So we'll make it, so we'll make this like this long. Cool, so let's copy over the 303 into the break, and just listen to what we got. Okay, kind of doing some live track making there. You can see I'm just kind of working with the stereo 3 and trying to make it even stronger. But yeah, so you can hear we just have this like long open place. And what we can do is we can play around with automation in here. I want to have this filter, or the filter on this pad, kind of like build up. Like I'm thinking like we kind of drop down in this part. And then we'll have it filter up throughout here. And then it'll go back down at the end and kind of like chill out and go into a drop. But you can hear how that's like really building up nicely there. I think that I'm also going to experiment with having this pad kind of play in this part, because you can hear when we go from this to this, it's a big transition, and you don't really want to have something that jarring in your track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try having this just play like a little drone during this part. Just so we're getting something from the pad. Yeah, like something like this. Perfect. And then we'll go into like a heavy drop there with the kick. So one thing more that I want to do, you can hear is, well, for one, the 303 needs a lot more movement in the break, but that's fine. We can do that. But what I want to do here is I want to add a little bit of like some stuff onto this for this little transition here, because I think I can make it sound even smoother and just like really, really, like really smooth. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this reverb, and I just turned the decay time up a little bit. Let's turn it up a little bit more. And then I'm going to automate the dry wet to come up during this part. There we go. And then we're also going to get a high pass filter. And we're going to have that just kind of automate up during that part a little bit as well. So then we get a bit of, you can hear like that reverb in there. Kind of gives us like some nice transition effects. We don't have to have like a huge white noise or anything like that. I'm also going to try doing something similar with this delay. Yeah, there we go. Let's try 16th this. Excellent. That transitions really well into the pad. So then the only thing you got to keep in mind with this is with the automation, you want to make sure you turn all those kind of things off, because what will happen, like this filter going down, for example, is what will happen is you'll copy this over to the next part and then it'll just be all messed up. So we're just going through, making sure all these automations go away after that part. Just cleaning it up, basically. Alright, cool. Now this is pretty fluid. So from here, I think we need to add some more automation in the 303 in the build. Like this first half is pretty solid. We can even do some more with the filter too, like maybe some more detail work. Something like that. Great. So yeah, so the 303, like I said, just kind of needs some more detail work as well. I think like just really doing stuff like this. Where it feels like it's moving more. Cool. So that sounds pretty solid. I like what we have so far. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I guess I kind of don't need all of this stuff because I have it all over here. Let's make sure though. Yeah, okay, so we're just going to delete that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy the kick and let's do like these hi-hats. Oh, and the noise. And then let's copy the 303 over as well. Cool, that's a good start for a little drop there. Now, what I'm also thinking we should do, just to kind of tie together the whole break once more. Is add these little effects. That's good. The only thing is that I think I want to have the little no play right before the drop. Cool, and we can also get like this clap. Oops. Alright, so from here we can just copy all of this over. I'll do a little bit of filter automation on the 303 during that part as well. You see, I'm just kind of going through and like doing it. Like, I really like listening to the track while I'm doing automation. and not just like doing it with my eyes, but doing it with my ears and what sounds best. Great, so then in that second half there, what we're going to do is we're going to bring back in the 909 stuff. So I really like doing this in like the second half of the drop, because what happens is we have this big break where everything just kind of goes down a bit at the end. And then we're starting to drop off in like a nice kind of smooth way, like it's not too hard. And then we're slowly bringing up the intensity this way. Now I'm also going to play around with the 303 a little bit now. I want to get kind of like my final. That sounds good with a bit of reverb. Maybe we can give it some phaser. Those of you who watch a lot of my videos know I like to use this technique a lot. It's really good. You can get like a really cool texture out of your synth if you use like a phaser or a flanger or something like that with no modulation. What happens is you're kind of just using it like a filter. And yeah, you can hear we're kind of... It's kind of shaping the sound in an interesting way, I feel like. Cool, so we'll blend that in. And what this is hopefully showing you as well is that, like, for me at least, and I think for most other producers, like, the making a track isn't so linear. Like, it's not just, like, me making a track and from, like, okay, I'm going to start with the kick now, and I'm just never going to touch it again. It's like, no, it doesn't really work that way. You know, it's not so black and white. It's like, you make a sound, and then you work on the arrangement, and then you keep working on the sound while you're working on the arrangement, like, all of that. Like, there's no way to just do it where you just, like, set up the 303 at the start, and then you're done. That's not, like, that's a fantasy. That's not the way production really works. But I like where this is going. Let's make that half as... There we go, half as many times there. Okay, cool. So, this is sounding pretty good. So now we got this little part. Let's get rid of that OTT. Awesome. So now we can work on this part a little bit. I think that what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring back this drone from the beginning. And we'll maybe have it come in here, and then we'll have it just start filtering in, like, literally from nothing, like from there or something. And we'll just have it start coming up. And also, another thing you can kind of see here is I'm copying these around and, like, not having the automation copy with it. The reason for this is because I'm using Ableton's automation lock. If you click this little lock icon here, that's what that does. It turns on the automation lock, which basically makes it so whenever you copy something, it won't copy the automation with it. It will only copy the clip, which is pretty useful for this when you're trying to just get these clips and kind of, like, work with them as new things and new parts. You can see if I turn this off, though. There we go. It copies the automation with it. So, yeah. Kind of a useful tool. Like I said, when you're working on something like this and, like, you want to keep copying over the 303 without copying over the automation or, like, this filter pad or anything like that. And yeah, I'm going to have this pad come back in here. It's some nice background. Cool, well this is sounding pretty good. I want to hear up to the break. this idea for one more part here. I'm thinking like, what if we have it go into this part and then we just have a little bit. Yeah, or something like that. Like we could even maybe bring it in here. Yeah, there we go. We'll have it just kind of building up. Awesome. Well, it's sounding pretty solid. I think I'm going to name some of these tracks, actually. I haven't done that yet. Let's name this Percussion Bus. Because technically that is a bus since it's a group. We'll name this one 303. We'll name this one Stab. We'll name this one. Or let's name that one Stab Chord. We'll name this one Lead Thing. Because it's not a lead, it's a lead thing. We'll name this one FM Stab. And then we'll name this one Pad. Nice. So this is sounding pretty solid. So this is the stage where I usually go through and just kind of like check out the mix, do any kind of like final extra things that I want to do with any of these sounds, and kind of like, yeah, just tie it all together at the end. So like we can check this, for example. I'll put the spectrum on there. And we can see like if there's anything happening in the low end. Which there isn't really, so we're good. We can finally nail down the 303 sound. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, you know, just going through and doing like the final things. Like we can check out these little kind of stab things that are happening. One thing that I did notice with the stab chord is it's a little bit too stereo, I feel like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that ping pong delay with just like a filter delay doing 16th notes so we can get the mono one. Because yeah, sometimes that stereo image can be a little bit jarring when you just have like a little sound like this that comes out and it's just like fully stereo. That's sounding pretty good. We can also check on the FM stab. We can like listen to it with the 303 and hear if they're clashing, which doesn't really sound like it. We can also hear if it's clashing with the kick. Sounding pretty good. And we can also check the pad too, like maybe add some like extra things in the automation, like here. We can have a little thing, and maybe like here we can have a little thing as well. I like little things, but I like having like stuff like that, where it's really just bringing it to life so much more. Maybe make that dip down there. Sounding pretty good. I think the last thing I need to check is just the kick. You know, just listening and making sure, like, is this hitting as hard as it possibly could? Or as hard as I really, like, want it to be? You know, just doing subtle things. Like, hear how much more that kick is hitting now. You know, just kind of subtle stuff like that. Just tying it all together. And so from here, I believe it will be time to master the track. So what we're going to do is we're going to check our output again. You can see this. We're going to see where it's hitting. And okay, that's pretty good to me. It's like minus 5.7. That's about between minus 5 and minus 6, like I was saying. So we're going to do this at the loudest part because that's the part where... Well, that's the part where it's loudest. But the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab an EQ8. And we're going to give it a little bit of low end boost. And okay, so I do this in every single one of these videos, but it's a really, really great technique to just kind of tie your track together at the end and help to open it up. This is why I do it on like almost everything. But yeah, so basically what we've done here is I've got a low end boost. So I'm just boosting the low end, making the kick hit a bit harder. All that. We've got a little bit of a cut around like 245 hertz. So, just kind of like the boxier frequencies. Like, if I get that headphone icon again. All those like super boxy frequencies. We're just cutting out. And then we got this high end boost. So here's without the EQ8. And then with it. You can hear, yeah, I think it really helps to kind of tie the whole thing together. So from there, I'm going to get a bit of glue compression. We're going to get the glue compressor here, and we're going to just turn up the ratio a little bit. I don't know, let me get some threshold and kind of like start doing this first. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the threshold down a little bit. Cool, so it's not too compressed. Like if you look at the master here, you can see it's still getting like, yeah, you can still see it's like pumping. But if we turn this off and back on again, you can hear it's just making it a little bit fatter. And I might do this in parallel a little bit as well. We can do like what's called parallel compression, where you basically have the dry signal and the wet signal playing in parallel. You can hear it's squashing the track a little bit, but it does really help to glue everything together. At the end of the mix there. So from there, what we're gonna do is I'm actually going to add just a little bit of saturation. I like to add this sometimes at this stage to one, kind of beef it up and bring the volume up a little bit, but also just to kind of add a little bit of texture to everything. What happens when you put like saturation or something like this on the master, you heard it happen with the EQ8 a little bit, is it makes everything sound a lot more tight and together, because what happens is you're putting the same effect on everything. And so it's kind of helping to put everything into the same world, if that makes any sense sonically. Like, you know how a lot of times you'll get a sound and then you'll find another sound in a sample pack or something like that, and you can't always make them, fit together or make them sound like they kind of belong to the same world. This is why. It's because they don't have like the same kind of processing on them. So when you add something like this on the master, however subtle it may be, it does really help. It's making it hit a little bit harder as well. So from here you can hear this track is quite loud. It's hitting pretty hard. But we do need to get it up a little bit, because you see the master's only hitting at like -3, -4, and we need it to be hitting at 0 to be at the same level as other tracks. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to make one final step where I'm going to grab a limiter, and we're just going to turn up the gain with this. And what this is going to do is it's going to basically set this so that it's going to turn the gain up to 0, so that it's at the point that we want it to hit at. But then, just in case anything goes like slightly over at any point, it'll make sure that it's not going to do that. So we'll put this up to 3.5, since that's the difference there. And there we go. Now you can hear the volume is there. And again, it's just making it so it can't go over. So like we could do the same kind of thing with the utility. Just turn the volume up 3.5 dB. We can see there are some points there where it'll just kind of randomly go over, and it's not clipping. You don't really hear it distorting that much, but you don't want that to be happening. So that's what the limiter does. It just kind of makes sure that those things aren't happening. And you can even turn it down a little bit less. But yeah, and there's a difference between doing it this way and just like putting a limiter on your master and then just like not mixing anything. Basically, doing it this way is using the limiter the way it's supposed to be used. It's just turning it up a little bit and then making sure that it's not going to go over 0. If you put a limiter on at the start of your track and then just let everything be clipping and yeah, just kind of try to cover it with the limiter, what's going to happen is it's just going to sound really messy. Like this obviously doesn't sound really messy. This is clean, so you don't need to be afraid of having a limiter on your master or anything like that for this. So I'll kind of show you. So here's without any of the mastering stuff, and then with it. You can hear it really helps, even though we're doing just a bunch of subtle things, it really helps to like add that last little bit of kind of pump and like power to the mix. And it's like the really subtle things that add up that make the big difference, if that makes any sense. So at this point, we've gone through, we made the track from scratch, we've mastered it. Let's hear the full track and see what we got. Awesome, so we've gone through and made a pretty cool little techno track. So that's me for this one, guys. As usual, I hope you guys enjoyed. And make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments, and make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Once again, you can get the full project file and the samples and the MIDI and presets and everything that I created in this video in the description, so make sure to check that out. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it will be available shortly. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.